What's up, guys? So this video we're going to talk about, sorry, looking off the list real quick. We're going to talk about the media possibly getting downsized or the whole landscape switching. We're going to talk about Generation Z and how they might be turning conservative. And we're going to talk about some world moves under a Biden administration that we might want to look after. And then, of course, markets in general and how they might react and move. So, I'm going to start off with the markets first because I know this is a financial page first and then obviously political kind of hand in hand. So, as we're looking at it today, something I want to be clear about the vaccine. I kind of posted it. I've been posting a lot recently. Sorry if I'm spamming, but the trials are good. Okay, so that's great news. So the market has jumped all around today on anticipation. On top of that, the market, it's kind of like a 2-for-1, right? It also jumped on a lot of nations coming back to do trade deals and possibly entering into different agreements with this administration, who is a little bit more globalist friendly. And they think more on the terms of, let's just get trade going versus, hey, we want to, crazy negotiate kind of thing, right? Kind of like how you could say going back to business as usual at the very least. Now, I could be wrong on this. The world could be wrong on this. They might be able to come back and come a little bit more harder and say, hey, we need this for our people. But, that's, we'll figure that out when it gets here. So that coincided with the possibility of, us curbing COVID-19 and, getting back to a normal is what's really causing markets to extend. And just to be real, guys, this is my personal opinion on it, is we're not really going to have a full dose, a dose that could actually, a vaccine in a sense, that could actually go out to the masses, to everybody, people like me and you, until third quarter of 2021. And if you're not familiar, there's, every 3 months is a quarter, January, February, March, and then you could do all that. So we're talking at the earliest, January, August, roughly, maybe September, around this time is what they're projecting that, hey, we're going to be full blown good to go. There's still a lot of loopholes to jump through. And guys, I also commented on this on one of my posts. I said, hey, there's a clear difference between the paper economy, which is Wall Street, and then there's Main Street. So, Wall Street, it's always going to be fun because they have liquidity coming in, they have big businesses, and they're always able to move. And if you haven't noticed, the way the market works is, even if a Sears and, a J.C. Penney's falls off the face of the earth, someone comes in right away that can replace them. That business, that big business has to go somewhere. So Wall Street is always going to be fine. And this is why I'm kind of like, I've always said, I don't think Wall Street is necessarily a great indication is Main Street is, right? There's a clear cutoff, because the reality is we don't have that many people that are market participants. And even that many people that are market participants, they're not moving around with hundreds and thousands of dollars that's making them feel, rich. Their stock's going up, they could sell, they could do. No, reality is they got a 401k with about $50,000, $60,000, and they're hoping over the long term to turn that into a couple $100,000 so they could use that to retire more easily, right? So it's not really an indication how America's doing. There's a lot of different measures for that. So that's what I'm trying to say. There's a huge disconnect because Main Street is still hurting. Main Street is still facing 30 million evictions. Main Street still has bars and restaurants that are shut down, that are done. Their way of life is destroyed. They're never going to be able to come back. Main Street also took on mountains of debt to just stay alive. And Main Street needs to be able to pay that off before we get into level playing field where we could actually grow again. So don't be surprised if we actually see a shrinkage in GDP for 2021. So there is a clear disconnect, guys. So for me, when I'm looking at, stuff going up, that's why I posted it. You're looking at these airlines, they're going up like crazy, and you're like, wait a minute, why did Buffett sell? Why did the smartest investor of our lifetime sell? It's because these guys stacked on a lot of debt, guys. That debt needs to get paid back first before investors could see profit. Because when you're a common, shareholder, you're right here, baby. You know what I mean? It literally goes executives, then it goes to debt holder or employees and the debt holder. Sometimes those things are switched, and then a bunch of other projects that they want to do, and then finally it's you. So when you're evaluating this stock or a company and you're in the asset, that's what you got to kind of look at, right? And in real estate, it's kind of the same thing too, right? It goes your bank first, then it goes your capex and your property management, then your taxes, and then any other extraordinary things that you might want to have to do to it. That kind of comes into CapEx, right? And then eventually you get to pay yourself. So you're last on the totem pole for almost every type of investment, especially if you own your own business. So with that in mind, when you see these stocks soaring, you start understanding that sometimes the perceived value is like, oh, this stock is so cheap, right? Because, oh, it was trading at, let's take American, like it was trading at 40, now it's only trading at 13. Wow, it's a quarter of the price off. That's not necessarily the case, because they also took on like double the debt that they ever had, right? And they're going to have huge problems of getting people even back, back to air travel and getting them to say, oh, we trust this again. So there's a lot of, the report came out, they said that it wasn't going to be until 2024 until they could even capture the same air miles that they had, right? I'm just using the airline as one industry. You could multiply this across many industries, but in order for them to get, basically that stat was just trying to say, in order for them to even get back to where they were, doing business to where they were, it's going to take about 2-3 years, right? So once they get back there and they get back to that profitability, you, the shareholder, aren't going to see that profitability. No, that money is going to have to go back to the debtors first, right? And then around that time, because airlines, it's a cyclical, it's a cycle, right? Because they get new planes in, they run the crap out of those planes, technology advances, they got to get other planes in. So once this debt cycle is paid off, right, then they got to form, essentially, it's going to be like a double debt cycle, and then they're going to get right. So you're really not going to see, the real profitability of an airline until like 2028, 2030. So this is where opportunity cost kind of comes in, right? So it's like, okay, am I going to put my dollars to work here when those dollars aren't going to start paying for themselves until roughly 10 years from now? And then from then, the dollars has to pay themselves off. Or am I going to sit back and find another investment that can put these dollars to work right now? You know what I mean? So it's that opportunity cost and that time value of money, because each dollar has time associated with it. And you're trying to get back as much time as possible, which is essentially return on capital. So those are some of the things that you gotta be wary of when you see everything shooting up. You gotta ask yourself, and some of them are justified. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying every company shooting up is expensive or overbought. I'm just saying be careful when you start doing these evaluations. Try to think bigger picture, right? So the next thing is the media coverage, guys. I mean, I don't know about you, but this last week has shown me I have a lot of distrust for everything that's going on, and I'm trying to fact check. And eventually, what's happening is a lot of people are finding, their person they trust at their own level. Fox News sort of did turn more liberal. A lot of people that are following Fox News are going to the Daily Wire. They're going to the Blaze. They're finding people like Tim Pool. They're following a Joe Rogan. And you got to ask yourself, the media is in this cycle right now where, they just hated the orange man. They made you click. Oh, look what the orange man did now. And now the orange man's gone, or he's going to be gone. Maybe you got a nice little run up, whatever's going to happen with the courts, but he's gone. Now, what are you going to do? What are you going to talk about? Because you can't just attack your guy. Are you going to attack the people that are attacking your guy? How clickbaity is that, right? And then you got all this overhead, right? Because they got content creators and writers and producers and executives and blah, blah, blah. And then you got an idiot like me that has a camera that's going to spew off his opinion. And guys that are 10 times, and girls that are 10 times smarter than me, that actually have degrees in journalism, that are passionate about this, that aren't biased. They might lean one way or the other, but they'll tell you, hey, I'm leaning this way, but here's the truth. They give you the real truth. And that's what you're going to seek. You're going to be tired of hearing the same old news cycle. You're going to say, man, I want something real. I want something that I feel informed. I want someone to be able to just give me the information, let me make the decision. And you're going to find it. If you're curious enough, you're going to search for it. And you're going to find someone with a camera. And that attention, those eyeballs are going to go away from the news media and go there. And that was part of the problem with the social dilemma, right? Is because everybody just wants the attention. You open up TikTok, videos start right away. You know what I mean? You have retweets and likes for a reason. Who has more followers? Who has more likes, right? To keep you on there, keep you glued there, because they need you to be there so they can make money. It's all been about the money. When you have no clickbaity stuff to stay there, what do you sell? You can't compete with cats on funny cat videos on Instagram. What are you going to do, right? And I think there's going to be a big shift in media. I think it's going to go more independent. I think it's going to be more subtle. And I think it's going to be great for this country that we're going to be able to get crazy perspectives from independent thinkers. That's going to help shape the way you kind of think, because you're going to take a piece from there, a piece from there, a piece from there, and you're going to become an independent thinker. Then you're going to start forming your own opinion, and you're going to have questions. And that's the most important thing. You're going to be asking questions that matter, and then you're going to find answers. And with that, you're going to be a well-informed voter, a well-informed citizen, regardless of your political view. I don't care if you're left or you're right or whatever, but if you're well-informed and you got facts, that's how democracy really, truly flourishes and works. Second thing is, and this is not to get touchy about anything, this is just observation that has been made. We've been turning really liberal since the 2000s. And statistically proven that people that are a little bit more liberal, they think a little bit more about the future. They don't have as many kids because they say, hey, you know what? Maybe one kid's good enough. Or they say, hey, you know what? Maybe no kids are better for us because that's just what we decide. We want to live our life. We want to contribute to society. Nothing wrong with that. And what's happening with Gen Z is the more conservative households, the more rural areas, they're still plus 2.3, plus 2.5. They're having more kids. Republicans and conservatives are having more kids than liberals are. So don't be surprised that as much as we think that Texas might turn blue here in 8 years, I really wouldn't be surprised that around 2032, 2036, which I know it seems crazy off, 16 years from now, but we see this shift back to a more conservative nation. It is a possibility. Now, colleges need to be addressed because they need to stop, infringing on free speech, and they need to let ideas flow. But also we're seeing a mass migration from colleges. We're seeing people finally wake up and say, you know what, maybe I don't need a degree to be, successful, because I want to earn a good living. I want to be able to have a good meal. I want to be able to drive a decent car, and I want to be able to take some vacations and make sure my family's taken care of. And I don't need a college degree to do that. And so you're seeing that shift too. So you're seeing people get more self-educated, and also the explosion of, as I said, it goes back to my first base of independent media. You're getting a lot of thinking. And I'm not saying one way's right or other way's right. I just think that you need to be exposed to a little bit of everything always. You should always follow a conservative a person, a far right they call them, or a far left, or I did that opposite, whatever. But just to get the perspective, you might just not agree with a single goddamn post they say, but you need to know what the hell they're saying. And you need to know, like, okay, maybe is that right? No, that's not right. And why is it not right? Is it, and that's how you grow as a thinker. And, I got a couple minutes. So I'll wrap it up with political moves. And this is what I'm really looking forward to, because Israel's already stated that if Joe Biden goes in and says, I want to go back to the Iran deal, that they're off. They're no longer in with their peace talks. And Trump is not going to get credit for this, but he did bring somewhat peace to the Middle East. He did get a lot of people to, recognize Israel and to recognize Jerusalem as their capital. And a lot of those things are going to go away if we decide to go that way in foreign policy. And not just that, I'm curious to see how Russia moves. I know that Putin has Parkinson's and he's going to stay on as a special advisor. But the Obama administration was known for drawing a sand of the line and saying, do not cross that line. The countries would say, okay, I'm going to cross it. Then he would step back and say, well, don't cross this line now. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying I wanted to go to war. You need to be a tough guy. But I'm trying to say countries are going to test this administration. I'm curious to see how they respond. And I'm also curious to see how they respond to China. China's continuing to buy influence. If you look at Sri Lanka, they opened up that port and they said, hey, you know what? Don't pay off the debt. We got you, but we're going to open a military base here. They're expanding. They're colonizing. So how are we going to respond back to that? And it's going to be really interesting to see this in the coming months. And I think we'll start seeing our first test before summer. And those kind of things right now are the things I'm really paying attention to and keeping an eye on. And I think you should too. I think, like I said before, regardless of what happens, we just need to get over this voter fraud thing. We need to have a clear, conscious court case, let it get dragged out, let it, bare knuckle brawl, bring it all out, bring it to light, make sure there's not anything there that makes, anything, people like me that voted say, oh, there was definitely fraud. We don't need the conspiracy theories right now. We need that to be addressed. Then we need to move on. But those theories, they need to be addressed. These accusations, they need to be addressed. Otherwise, you're just going to have a crazy divide. And I don't think anybody wants that. So I know I unpacked a lot of information there. I hope this is informative. I hope you enjoyed it. And please, guys, help me grow the channel. It's really on you guys to share this with a friend. And, I hope you have a great rest of the week.